Good morning. My name is Kirsty Dignam, and I'm here to pull up my big girl pants. I am here to look at the energies this week and how to best navigate them on the 20th of July, 2026. Nearly said 2027 then. Interesting. This is the second time I've recorded this video, and I was going to keep the first part. I'm not really one that cares too much about how perfected something looks when I share it, because I do firmly believe it can get in the way of the authenticity of the message. That being said, I had to stop the video halfway through for a driver to come and collect my car. My car that I got on the 1st of July that was hit by my neighbour, reversed into by my neighbour, and has been written off. And it felt really poignant. It felt like it was an opportunity to let go of what had been before, the recording included. The car, as a result, is actually going to give me more funds to get a car far better, newer than the one that I had. And I share that because even though things can be or can seem inconvenient, even though things can seem as if they're almost out to get us and that we can't quite get in a forward momentum this week, if we can stop and pause and be with what is, really listen to the stories underneath them, one of which I will share in a moment, that I was actually talking about before the door went, we may just recognize that there is a more expansive way of moving forward now. And I don't just mean in vehicle terms, I do mean physically, however, and that feels quite important. There's been a lot of emphasis on spiritual evolution, awareness, awakening, which has been a wonderful, wonderful thing. But obviously, as we work our way around the medicine world, as we work our way through the process of creativity itself, there comes the physical aspect. We can have a lot of expansion and a lot of growth, but how is that being applied in what we do with it? The biggest question there, pain in the head. There's quite a few headaches going over things this week. But the biggest question underneath them all, no matter what we are repeating or trying to find the answer to, is who are we? Who do we think we are? On many, many levels. I was speaking to a dear friend of mine the other day. There's a lot of things that are going to come to our awareness over the next few weeks, months, probably years, at least up until 2033, around the environments that we find ourselves in, or perhaps not in, but are being made known to us. My friend lives in America, and where she is based, the impact of the Canadian fires means that she cannot open her windows, and they've been advised not to take the young outside because the air is so dense with smog. Now, being aware of that, obviously, it wasn't for me to find out what was going on. That wasn't why I had been invited into this conversation. Being the healer that I am, it was to drum for rain, it was to pray. The reason I share that is there are things that are going to come into our consciousness, not so that we can react how everybody reacts, but so that we can feel, first and foremost, feel before trying to figure something out, feel what is being initiated within us and what response is required from us as a result. We are the hollow bone. We are the year of the Wheel of Fortune, but also the year of the Magician. As above, so below, as within, so without. We are the hollow bone. We are vessels of change. But that means that invitation, that creation, that conception of change must come down through us first. If it's stuck in the head and we're trying to figure something out, that doesn't come through in our application. And some of us know that. Some of us, and I include myself in this, have been almost distracting ourselves with how we think we should be or how something should be so that it doesn't go to the next level of what it could be. One of the things I was talking with my friend about in America, I don't know the scientific truth behind this, but they were suggesting that there is an element in the ash that is produced from fire that when it goes into the air, triggers something in the clouds to produce rain. Now, again, geology is not my speciality. I don't know for sure if this is true, but what really interested me was the remembrance that whatever is in our environment is an invitation to create what we need. whether we like it or not. It all depends on how we choose to see that. Now, I'm not suggesting that you stay in environments that aren't good for you or unsafe for you. Obviously, a bit of savvy here. But if there's something that keeps repeating itself that makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, this week in particular, where can you see it as an opportunity to change the situation that you are finding yourself part of? To recognize the situation that you are part of, to honor your place within that. One of the narratives that was coming up before I ended this video was the fact that no matter what I do, the story that is going around in my head is that I can't seem to get any internet presence. Now, it doesn't matter how much I share. The alternative is to throw a shed ton of money at my accounts through advertising or authenticating my accounts in order to beat the algorithm, to beat the system, which isn't a game I want to be part of. It just isn't a game I want to be part of. And what it has given me is an opportunity to question whether or not I actually want to be part of the expansiveness of social media and where it's currently headed. And the truth is, no. No, I've always been a ground level person. I've always been, whether it was midwifery or healing in the local village, I've always been somebody that prefers to be front line. We all have our places. And this week there is an opportunity to recognise where we may have forgotten that, where we may not tried to be something that we're not, but forgotten who we are. Why is that important? Well, if we're asking for things from a place of inauthenticity, now that doesn't mean that you're necessarily or we're necessarily being fake, but if we've forgotten who we are, then we're not aligned with what we need. So if we're coming at things from a place of being who we think we should be, being what we think we want, we're not going to get what it is we actually need to move forward. I could cling on to my car. I could buy it back and it would be in a category N insurance wise forever and cost me a fortune. I could fight what the universe told me many weeks ago when I bought it, which was that it was a stepping stone to something better, to something more expansive, to something else that was needed. Now, this week, yes, things may come up that we would have liked to be different. However, if we can pause and be with what is occurring, there is a high chance that it will be guiding us, for some, back on track where they need to be. Which is why I've picked the Unfolding Path Tarot. Very undecided between an AI deck and the runes, so very undecided between advanced energy and ancient energy. And it does feel like there's this almost this split down the line of, internet presence or on the front line, or old ways and evolution. And actually the invitation is to merge them both, which is going to be different for everybody. So to find what runs through them all. Well, and that's the bit that's going to be uncomfortable. This morning when I was tuning into the energy, there was a very clear, direct vibration coming through that I would rather stay away from, because it's not how I see myself. I do see myself as willing to see all perspectives and, take time, and that's great. But there does come a moment when anything that is trying to be born needs to be born. And holding back because we would prefer it to be a certain way, holding back because we believe it should be a certain time or a certain experience, is going to get really uncomfortable this week. So the key is to feel into the body and let things unfold. This isn't about pushing against things. This isn't about forcing the outcome. It's just not fighting it anymore. Okay, so with that in mind, let's look at the energies this week and how to best navigate them. It's going to take some self-worth. Now, the self-worth isn't about, well, it is about deserving more and recognizing your place and all those kind of things. It is about balance. So one of the aspects of the internet presence is I'm not going to change what I share. I'm not going to change what I offer. I'm going to change the amount of time I spend doing it, not even in the physical production of what is offered, but the amount of time I think about what I can do to get out there, or to get the message seen, or to get myself seen. And that's the key. With Jupiter in Leo, as we head into Leo season, be mindful we still have the end tail of the crab season. We still have that in or out type energy this week, and we're going to be leading into a load of eclipses with extra, not just darkness, but opportunities to see where we shine the most. Okay, so remembering that, I'm seeing this movement again towards fixing when it comes to healing, towards getting rid of when it comes to shadow work. This drive for separation, this drive for not liking that part and pushing it away. Again, I'm not saying you embrace situations that are unhealthy or unsafe, your own patterns included. However, getting to the bottom of them and bringing back whatever was segregated is essential in any healing work. Healing is about being complete and whole. It's not about being holy cheese where other energies can come in. It's about being complete in who you are. So it's that juggling between the ancient energy and the evolved energy, our past and our future. How do we do that? By being present. In the other video, I did actually share the feeling that we were being watched because of my little googly-eyed drum there, and obviously Mary Magdalene in the background. But the feeling of being watched from our past. If our past version could see us now, if we could turn around and look at everything that we have experienced, have we done it due credit? Have we honoured the lessons, or have we repeated them? And that is the invitation this week. And there isn't judgment there. There's clarity to be found in this. By combining the ancient and the evolved in this present moment. Okay, so is there anything else on that? There was something about the cards that I was using, and it's gone out of my head. It's gone out of my head. So recognizing this week, anything less is more. Less is more, particularly if it's the same message over and over and over. The reason we often repeat things is uncertainty. The reason we're often uncertain is because we're unsafe. There's a big difference between the unknown and uncertainty. The unknown is something that is yet to be evolved, something yet to be revealed. Uncertainty is not knowing what to do in those situations. So this week, if you're feeling uncertain, what can you do? Come back to the body. What do you need to trust yourself in the unraveling, the unfolding before you? That's the thing, isn't it? Not pushing, not forcing, not holding back, being. Okay, recognizing the hollow bone that we are. Who do we think we are? The other thing that came up, humanity has this interesting way of believing that its environment needs to mold around it and not the other way around. I think we are the only species that believes we are somehow in control of something far greater than we could ever be, and expecting it to bend to our every whim. And if it doesn't, it's inconvenient, whether that's laws of attraction, whether that's the earth, whether that's the situations that we find ourselves in, whatever that may be. Every other species adapts to its environment, not the other way around. Now, I'm not saying again that you put up with situations that are uncomfortable or unsafe, or that you even lose yourself in an environment or relationship, but that you recognize that you're not here to change the outside. The big emphasis this week is to look at what's going on within. We can understand everything around us, but if we do not look at how we would interpret that, how we translate that, nothing grows. It becomes very, very stagnant. Anything else on that? I think that will do. There will be more on that, particularly in the views that we do have of ourselves. So, for example, my story about, not being able to get out there on the internet, having called it out for what it is, that could actually change, and that's important. Be aware, call it out for what it is, and wait for the conversation, wait for the return in the communication, wait for things to shift, wait for the call inside that says this is different. Okay, and wait. I was going to say, or create it, but actually there's so many people beautifully trying to create things that take more than just themselves to be created. Okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. 14 minutes in. I'm aware on Instagram, obviously, at 20 minutes it stops. So, okay. Energies this week and how to best navigate them. Don't squeeze yourself into time frames. I'm really tempted to do the reading now in 5 minutes for the whole week ahead. Just so everyone on Instagram can get that. Don't squeeze yourself into time frames, but equally don't drag things out. Okay. Card underneath is the moon card, and it does feel related to the full moon that is coming up, I think, on the 29th. But before then, we're going to be going into Leo season. Before then, we're going to be really expanding into the heart and seeing things be illuminated for what they are. So with the moon card underneath, expect some illusions to come to the surface as an opportunity to decide which ones we're going to stay and continue manifesting with and which ones we're going to walk on from, our own included. Right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overall. Okay, so we do have 2 major arcanas. Well, we actually have 3. We have the moon underneath, the high priestess, and the world. And what I can almost hear is the mother maiden crone. Recognizing stages of creativity for the process that it is. Honoring where you may actually be. There's a lot of talk about laws of manifestation, laws of attraction, and everything from vision boards to wish lists. But if we do not know what stage of creation we are at, we do not know what we need within it. There are many people out there that are at the end phase that are trying to bring in the new, and they haven't completed what needed to be completed. There are many out there that are trying to complete something when actually they're in the beginning phase, but they're giving the same energy of what was to what could now be. So acknowledging where you actually are. How do we do that? With intuitive wisdom. Yeah, the high priestess, intuitive wisdom and some maturity. The high priestess in this deck is an older lady that has recognized the pomegranate seeds, the many trips down to the underworld, the many experiences that have been gained, the honoring of when there is a time to go within and when there is a time to actually create something different, the honoring the going within as the opportunity to create something different. It's not that our mind isn't important. It's just the beginning. It's not that understanding something isn't important, but it's just the beginning. We understand it from a mental perspective, then an emotional perspective, and a spiritual perspective, and then a physical perspective. There is so much more to stories than we give them credit for if we don't move past our need to just simply understand what is going on, ourselves included. So I'm going to leave it there for Instagram because I don't want to get cut through the message. I don't want the information divided. So if you want to watch the rest and how to best navigate the week, you will need to pop over to YouTube, and that's where I can feel a more forceful energy coming in. Go after what you want, go after what you need, but only you can do that. So the rest of the week is going to be on YouTube, and I shall see you next week, if not, as the case may be. If you are here on YouTube, thank you. Thank you for continuing to stay the distance, to go the distance. It's really, really important. And actually, the communities that are being built or have the potential to be built at present have those stronger roots. I'm not saying that internet communities aren't beautiful things. They are, of course they are. So I've spent so long trying to build one. But there are many different versions of communities. There are your families, there are neighborhoods, there are influencer communities, there are communities at the local community centres, there are schools, there are, mums clubs, there's a beautiful woodworking club just down the corner from me. There are many, many communities. Because one isn't quite what you're after or fitting in with doesn't mean that you don't have one, or that you could maybe build one. Okay, so really feeling into that, and thank you for being here as part of the YouTube community that I do have. For putting in the work, that's the other thing, isn't it? For building roots in what is important to us, which takes time, and it takes maturity, and it takes wisdom, and it takes the acknowledgement of knowing what it is we offer, rather than distracting ourselves from what we think that should be or how that should look. Coming back into our core with the High Priestess this week, the invitation is to know what it is we offer, to see beyond the illusions of that. How do we do that? Well, the other major arcana this week is the World card, the reflection of ourselves within the environments we find ourselves in, our place there, what we are adding to, what we're being asked to bring forth, what is rising within us. There's a lot of people that are being spurred and fueled by situations that they find themselves in, being called to action from the world herself. What a glorious, glorious thing. On the Monday, now there is resistance there. Look, there is resistance there, and it is ego resistance there, and I get it. I have my own as well. I'm sure I'm better off doing it this way, and there is patience there. There's an element of patience there, but there is also a urgency now being felt physically for actions that actually align with what we are trying to achieve. On the Monday, we have the King of Pentacles. We have the emphasis here of not lauding it as such over people, not looking at how we see sovereignty, looking at how we see leadership within community, looking at the hierarchies that have been built, looking at the hierarchies that we believe need to be built, recognizing to be part of community is to be part of community. It doesn't mean we are separate from that community. It's not our community. A community is a living entity in its own right, where everyone is as valued as each other. That is the community that is trying to be built. And obviously that goes beyond my platform or my center or my teachings, or there's a lot of gatekeeping of the divine that is trying to come through. And there are those that, maybe myself, who knows, there are those that haven't found a way of being yet, because it's trying to be born through the disillusionment of what is already out there. Now, you can talk about relationships in that sense, you can talk about jobs in that sense, you can talk about spiritual approaches in that sense, whatever it may be, health, whatever your thing is, whatever is really grinding you, triggering you, initiating you, whatever is getting you is a call to action. It's a call to action to build something. It's the whole find a need, fill a need, to build something. Now, what would that be? Well, I don't know. It will be individual for us all, but it will combine what was the old systems. It will not get rid of them all. I just closed my eyes and saw the biggest eye. It will not get rid of the old systems. It will take what worked from the old systems. So what worked in community, if that is your thing? What worked in relationships? What worked when it came to the work that you offer? It will take the old systems, the new opportunities, and create something completely different by combining them both. But it's going to take grounding, and it's going to take honesty, and it's going to take authenticity of where we are. Not, it's going to take admitting what is working and what isn't working, and being open. It's not about changing it right now, but being open. We need to be open to conceive before we can conceive. So being open to whatever is trying to come through, rather than continually repeating something that has had its day. On the Tuesday, we then have the Tine of Cups. On the Tuesday, we then... Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm not into politics as a look into the energies. It's just I'm more into the what can we do on an individual basis within the collective. However, on the Monday, we do have the King of Pentacles. I am aware of the new Prime Minister that is coming in the UK, and on the Tuesday we have the Ten of Cups, and I nearly said the Tine of Cups. I do believe he comes from up north. I don't know the whole ins and outs of it, but the Ten of Cups here, there is an opportunity to start celebrating what we did have, celebrating what could have been, bringing that forward by looking at what is actually in our arms right now. What have we got to share right now? I heard the most beautiful thing the other day in one of the groups that I'm in about nostalgia and how different and healing it can be when we look back rather than look through the eyes of loss, through the eyes of celebration. If we could look back and see all the things that have happened from a not a bypassing or a rose-tinted perspective, but an honest, open perspective. What have we gained? What could we celebrate? If we could do that rather than everything that we have lost, how would that change the outcome? How open would we be? This isn't about curiosity or skepticism. This is about, if we want something new, how willing are we to let it in? On the Tuesday. On the Wednesday, we have the Queen of Swords. While we do need to be more strict with our emotions, with our intuition, that's not to say to cut them off, but to recognize where our thoughts are affecting what we feel, and what we feel is affecting what we think, and how that impacts the direction that we claim to be seeking. So I'm aware this morning that some of the stuff around the internet or social media, I'm not sure I want that. To be honest, if I'm completely and utterly honest, I'm not sure I want the hassle of answering a million comments or having to be on my phone all the time or having to moderate what is going on. I see some incredible readers out there that are doing that, daily, weekly, and they are so busy with that. I'm not sure that's my thing. I would much rather, like I say, be down the village doing whatever. And we all have our niches and they're all important. So striving after something that we don't want, get real, get honest. Do we actually want it? Secondly, are we capable of it? I am not. When I was journeying with the wands on the 6 of Wands, I put a post up about one of the horses in the Grand National and my internet exploded. I had a glimpse for one day on the 6 of Wands, which is Jupiter and Leo in the tarot. So we're in that energy, right? I had a glimpse in one day what would be needed of me in order to have that internet presence. And no, thank you. I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it. But also then being open and aware that once we acknowledge what could potentially happen and what may be needed of us, there will then come a choice. There is always a choice. And that choice on the Thursday is about how we see ourselves. How we see ourselves in the world. It's the world card. How able we see ourselves to deliver what it is we are actually wanting and we are actually capable of. This goes beyond the example for myself of internet presence and the amount of recognition that there will be, to whether or not I'm ready to be seen. And that is the emphasis this week for us all. Do we want to be seen? Truly, are we willing to look? Are we willing to look at the reflection in front of us, but more importantly behind us, that is saying all of this wisdom you've gained? What have you done with it? What have you done with it? On the Friday, we then have the Page of Swords. Okay, so the book has now been open. All these different stories, all these wonderful insights, all these new ways of seeing things. What do we now do? Well, we recognize them as new. First and foremost, recognize them as new. Ensure that they are new before we move forward on the Saturday to the Two of Swords. Here, it isn't about what we can see. It isn't about the obvious. It is about what we feel. And in this deck, excuse me, the swords aren't crossing her heart. They are above and below. She has become the channel of her own divine purpose. By she, I don't mean just women. I mean the feminine has become the channel of her own divine purpose. The intuition is aligned with what is meant to be and what shall become as a result. On the Sunday, we have the Three of Cups. We have that cause for celebration. We have that deliverance, if you will, of whatever is building throughout the week. And I will emphasize that, whatever is building throughout the week. So that could be illusions from the moon. That could be more intuitive wisdom from the High Priestess. That could be financial abundance with the King of Pentacles. That could be a realignment of what that actually means. What is success? What is success? Again, going back to the internet, in today's age, There's a lot of success that is tied to what we can gain from something. How many likes we can get, how much money we are making, how much presence we have, how much we get out there, how much we are recognized. But what about the success that comes from within? Now, I'm not saying those other things aren't important. They can really help us. They can be really essential, particularly when we need encouragement to remember who we are. But the essence is to continually remember who we are throughout that too. So success that isn't grounded in our own certainty is very reliant on our environment, right? Very, very reliant. And then what do? We try to control that environment because we feel unsafe. However, if we recognize that we are part of that environment, that our success is in balance with that of others, with the conditions that we find ourselves in, with the world within which we live, we have our own unique ecosystem within a far greater universal law. So again, the things that can be delivered can be joy. It can be reminiscence of all the beautiful things that we have experienced, and that can really help us cut to the chase this week. However, if that nostalgia comes with loss or a fear of security or a lack of maturity or a emotional upheaval that we do not take the time to regulate, and by regulate I don't mean control, I mean to witness and to be with, and that can also come with some sharp severing. Either way, because there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in the tarot. There's no set way of being in the tarot, and I cannot stress that enough. There is no set outcome in the tarot. It is a chance to look at what is being reflected, and if we cannot interpret what is going on within, then we're missing half the story. We're missing half the story here. Either or. Come midweek by the wild card, we are going to be shown parts of ourselves that are here to be celebrated, embraced, invoked, embodied, in tuned with, if we want to take any new ideas forward. This isn't about looking outside of us this week. This is about feeling into the call of action in our human bodies, recognizing the beauty that is. Yes, it may be inconvenient. We may not want to feel things or to go through processes, but as a human, that's what we do. We feel these things, we act on these things, we become part of our systems in doing so. And that is something to be celebrated. That is a wisdom to be handed down, to be fed from, to be gained. That is not an emotional inconvenience for our detriment. So we have three major arcanas here, something I haven't done for a while. Let's break it down. We have something I haven't done for a while is to break it down. So again, invitation this week, break things down. If it feels like it's too much, segregate it a little bit. Don't forget to bring it back. For the love of all that is, don't forget to bring it back, but break it down. Okay, like the what three words when you don't know where you are in the satellite navigation system, the what three words are coming up here? Well, we have the moon, illusion, we have high priestess, intuition, and we have the world, self-reflection. Okay, looking at the illusion of our intuition, looking at the intuition of our own self-reflection, and seeing where they are working with or against each other. The three cards of the major arcana suggest that anything that is being created this week will be done through the element of fate, through factors that are out of our control. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about that? I've said that the internet isn't for me, and you can almost bet sod's law probably next day or tomorrow or next week it could all blow up, and all of a sudden I'm inundated. You don't know, and that's the thing. We can be aware of what's going on for us, but how open can we be to see them for the illusions that they could also potentially be? Intuitively understanding we need to be where we need to be for the world. We need to feel the call of action that is occurring and to actually feel it and recognize that that is an action in itself. It does feel as if this week is a little bit intangible. However, that is a story that we are being encouraged to look at because we have the King of Pentacles. We only have one Pentacle card here, but it is the King of Pentacles. It is that sovereign connection to our bodies, to our truth, to our place here that is going to provide the security that we seek. It's not going to be someone in Parliament. It's not going to be a football game. It's not going to be just one relationship. That security must come from within also. We then have 2 cup cards. So we have balance between the 10 and the 3 of cups. Can we celebrate all that has been created and allow that to create more to celebrate? Pretty simple, really. And that's the emphasis here. The 3 cards that we have are the sword cards. The emphasis here is what we are thinking, we are creating. I know that's uncomfortable. I know no one wants to hear that. And do you know what? I am one of those people that find that a little bit too easy. But actually, there are times when our thought process becomes our greatest cheerleader or our biggest saboteur. And this week we are being encouraged to look at which one that is. How do we do that? Well, the many ideas that are coming in, allow them to come in. Allow them to come in without looking around us to see which one to go for or what other people may think. Just allow them to come in. Watch the thought process for the small part of the process that it is. I'm going to leave it there. There is a tendency or a desire to find and seek more, but we will only ever find what we are looking for from where we are looking. Take care, and I'll see you next week.